Okay, this is taking me a little while to get this. Sorry about this, but it is final exam time, and this section isn't tied to any evaluation components, but I've created it purely out of interest for you all, not just for those who have a TikTok account, but also potentially, as you saw in some of the um, TikTok in the headlines, that potentially you might have seen that TikTok could track information about you. The thing is with the TikTok and the headlines is that they've listed all these things about TikTok and they tend to mentally get combined with people. TikTok logging it, capturing information like your keystrokes. TikTok can actually track you even if you're not in the TikTok site. These two unrelated things can get combined and scare the heck out of people. So the first bottom line view I'll give you is that they are separate things. So if you are not a TikTok user, you don't have to freak out about TikTok being able to capture a whole bunch of private information on you. On the other hand, if you are a TikTok user, there is some security problems. Now, let's start off first. Look at some of this. If you're not a TikTok user, if you're a general web user, you can be tracked. They can capture information about you. The information that can be captured about you as you're browsing the web is relatively benign. The tracking information could be is typically done in two ways. The most common way that you've probably heard of is a cookie. Cookies are an older approach. With cookies, essentially, and pixels, they track information a bit about you. Um, there's a difference. Now, the information isn't like login information or anything like that. Typically, it's typically used for advertisements in both cases. A cookie versus a pixel. One difference is cookies are stored on your computer. Pixels, on the other hand, are stored on the website that you go to, or in a or you can actually have a pixel come into play if you have a email and it links to a website. It's part of the website, so there's a difference here. Now that's an important thing because if you're annoyed with this tracking, well, the techniques that you can use to deal with cookies essentially go through your web browser and you can actually see this. How do I delete the cookies? Or can I turn off cookies? Or can I have all the cookies erased when I exit the web browser? These are things that you can look up on your own because it's actually different on each web browser. And if you don't want to be tracked, then that's how you can do it. On the other hand, pixels, because they're stored in the description for a web page, you can't apply these techniques. So there are some things that you can do with pixels to which one is it? Pixel versus cookie, how TikTok tracks you. In these links, there's actually some ways that you can mitigate the effects of pixels. Now, with cookies, they can track information a bit about, say, what website you went to, for instance. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and perhaps some information about the website. So the cookies can be used to say, okay, well, which part of the website, for instance, have people looked at? That's not necessarily a bad thing for advertisers. How long are they? Perhaps some information about you and your computer. On the other hand, what cookies can't do is track information about you across the web. Now, across the web, that sounds kind of scary, but it's not necessarily as bad as it seems. That's where pixels come into play. Now you might wonder if the name pixel, well, why are pixels used to track me? Well, you might have heard the term pixel in terms of graphics, images, pictures. Normally, one way that an image is stored is in the form of pixels, little dots that these dots all compose a picture. They're such small dots that you can't typically see them. They're called tracking pixels because they're essentially they're information that's downloaded on from a website onto your computer when it's trying to track you, but it's in a pixelated form. Now, the tracking pixels could do things that cookies can't, for instance. Again, it's not necessarily as bad as it seems, where suppose that you have a ad on a website and you want to track the effectiveness of that ad. That would essentially require that, say, you'd have to go to the computer server where that ad is being hosted or stored, and then you'd also have to have some ability to determine a correlation between people who went to that ad and went to your site or that shopping site, if it's hosted by someone else like Amazon, and actually bought based, or at least went to that site based on that ad. A direct correlation between two. That's where the server-to-server communication come into play. There are some techniques that I have in these links here that indicate how can you mitigate the effects of tracking pixels, essentially. Some of them take the form of these add-ons that you can get for your browser. Now, the basic idea but with the tracking pixels and tracking cookies, they're not necessarily a bad thing, but there are some people that don't like this information tracked about them. That's why there's these tools to mitigate the effects of tracking pixels or to remove the cookies. So this gives you an idea of how you can be tracked online. It's not necessarily something to panic about. If they know, for instance, let me think for a sec, what browser you're using, a little bit about your computer operating system, that's not necessarily all that bad a thing. So back to TikTok now and other sites, to be fair here, because I'm not beating up on TikTok just for TikTok's site. The tracking pixels have become more prominent in the news because TikTok is prominent in the news. Not to beat up on TikTok, other websites use tracking pixels. Google uses them. Facebook also uses them. And you could have these tracking pixels come into play when you go to a site that is not Facebook. You can get a tracking pixel track you, or you can get a TikTok pixel track some information about you. Again, relatively benign information. So this gives you an idea how TikTok can get information about you, even if you never use a TikTok app, and if you don't even go to TikTok. But again, it's relatively benign. There's ways you can mitigate this. Now, how TikTok can track you. Okay, if you have nothing to do with TikTok, you don't go to that website, you can still be tracked through the pixels, but you can also be unknowingly be tracked by Google and Facebook. That's relatively benign, but if you still don't like it, you can mitigate it by looking at how to mitigate the effect of tracking pixels. I've suggested one approach. That's relatively benign. However, if on the other hand you're a TikTok user now, how much of a security problem is there? There can be a very big security problem. But I can also give you an approach for mitigating this. So I'm not necessarily one of those old cruds who say, wow, I don't use Facebook here. I never Facebook, I talk face to face. I don't have a TikTok account, but through a friend's account, actually, she was on Facebook and she was succeeding in her modeling career. So I was out of curiosity, what does she have on TikTok? Now that's relatively benign. If you have a TikTok account and you're worried about security, don't access your TikTok account through the app, but access it through the website. Now, I don't have a TikTok account, so I can't tell you the difference in terms of functionality. Are you missing out on some features if you're accessing your account through the website versus through the app? That's something you have to check out on your own. But if you're accessing through the website, whether you're like me and you've just gone there, or you continue to go there and you don't have an account, you get the tracking pixels. Not necessarily a big deal. But if you're a TikTok user and you're using the TikTok, you're accessing your account through the TikTok website, just the website, not the app, you only have the problem of the pixels, which is relatively, in my opinion, relatively benign. But now here's the kicker. If you are a TikTok user and you're using the TikTok app, that's where the problems come into play. And that's where it's not entirely clear from the media stories and even the government people who are saying, okay, well, we're going to ban it on phones. There was the NDP leader, Jasmeet Singh, says, okay, we'll use it for the NDP, but we're not going to use it anymore. That, if I didn't hear incorrectly now, to be fair, that's where there's some misinformation here. They could safely use it, but they'd avoid the app. That's the problem. With the app, the information you heard about where TikTok can look at what's on your phone, keystroke logging outside of what you type on TikTok, that's the problem. So the biggest problem with TikTok is the TikTok app. Outside TikTok app, it can spy on what you're doing on the phone. Bottom line there. Now, additional information. I have some additional information I just see that actually I don't have here, I just noticed. I also had the TikTok in the news. This is the one I used to create that PDF. This must be an older form. There's also research information. I had some research. If you look at the web address, it actually has links to the CPSC website. This is additional stuff you can look at where the links that I have so far are actually not bad. They lead to some, let me think for a second. Indeed, yeah, web analytics, they're relatively good. They're reasonably good. The Norton one is especially good because Norton is a security company. They produce things like antivirus software. So all these links, it's probably the most creditable. But Norton is meant for the everyday consumer, so it's also understandable. There are some information. I think I also have this in the PDF I posted, where some scholar links you lead to some more information. Now, I have also some links to my colleagues on the CPSC website, and I have it ranked. I have Joel Reardon's research link first, not because I'm giving a commercial. The funny thing is, I saw Dr. Reardon. It was an elevator talk. I was taking the elevator down in ICT, so it wasn't a very long talk. I mentioned TikTok, and he said, "This is just bizarre," when I talked to him about TikTok. His research specialty is security, but specifically privacy of information, as opposed to security where a virus or something else does bad things to your computer. What he's looking at is how things like apps and websites actually violate your privacy as opposed to security. They're related, but not identical. I had to get a clarification on what he meant with the bizarre part of it. And basically, his opinion was, and I don't necessarily agree with, actually, I don't agree with it, although I respect his research opinion, is the bottom line, and I might have missed, it might have been too short a talk to get the full story. That'll be fair to Joel here. He thought that the stories about TikTok were overblown. And very quickly, only had me a few seconds, in fairness to Joel here, that there's his justification for it was, well, TikTok's doing some bad things, but there's other websites that are doing bad things, or other apps and websites doing bad things. So that's okay. Now, again, because it was only 10 seconds and we both had to go after that, he might have actually meant to add in more. On the surface, it sounds, it's something that I wouldn't agree with because, if when you're saying to your parents, okay, if your friends jump off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff? That sounds not like a good justification. Um, the takeaway is this: TikTok is in the headlines a lot because it has the app specifically has some really nasty security violations. But Dr. Reardon, his what I don't dispute is he actually in his security research, he puts these apps on phones and then he actually sees what information it's saving and who it's sending to. And he specifically, I trust him on this one. His evaluation, whether it's good or bad, well, that's something else. Where he said there's another app and he couldn't disclose it yet because there's non-disclosure issues and he's about he could publish something later. That's why I actually have a website where it's also sending information to the mainland China government. So there's other apps that do this, and they're not in the news. But the thing is, I didn't get from him. Well, the thing is, TikTok is very popular. These other apps may not be as popular, even though they're sending more information. So I put Dr. Reardon's site where he could see potentially as he's publishing information. And some of them are research papers, so they might be hard to follow, admittedly, but they're correct and they're vetted. They're often vetted by other experts in the field. But he's also given some media interviews, which is understandable by the everyday person. So I've got him first in terms of the links because of security and privacy. He's the most relevant person. But I also have some links to some of my other colleagues in the computer science department who do work in, say, the security of information, Dr. Ken Barker, with databases, for instance. If you're interested in seeing some of the stuff that they do, and again, they're researchers in the field, so it is correct information. But if you're looking at the research papers, the forewarned part is I might not be able to understand because I'm not a researcher in that particular field. So anyhow, this is my quick few-minute talk on TikTok here. There's much more to it, and I actually looked through some papers here. That's why I actually have the Google Scholar links, because I wanted to besides seeing what my colleagues said about it, what other researchers have said about it. Now, I could have a far more thorough one to look at the research conferences and journals and so on, but I wanted a quickie link to see what people are saying about TikTok. Overall, this is just a quick distillation of it. So the synopsis is this: TikTok can be very bad. there's other applications that are very bad. The very bad part of it comes from the app. If you're accessing TikTok through the website, not so bad. The information that TikTok gathers you outside of TikTok, not necessarily so bad either. And I've given you some idea how to mitigate it. Look at how to get rid of tracking cookies on your computer or not have them come up. You can't eliminate them entirely. You can say, well, I don't have any tracking cookies, but every website uses them almost. So it's going to basically just be a pain because it's going to, do you want to add this cookie? Do you want to add this cookie? It's up to you whether you want to do it. I have a buddy from engineering that does it, or you can just have them blown away as soon as you say close that web session. So that's my quickie synopsis of privacy, security, and TikTok. Hopefully you enjoyed it. There's much more than that, but this is just a short one based on the one day I had to prepare and now a little bit of time I need to create this video. Have a good semester. Hopefully you enjoyed the class.